Hi, I'm Chris Howard with the University of Maine Cooperative Extension, and I'm arriving here in Albion, Maine to talk with Chuck and Holly Noyes from the Noyes Farm about their farm and how they manage their risk. Join me.
My name's Chuck Noyes. I'm a lifelong dairy farmer in Albion, Maine. We sell milk to Oakhurst Dairy. We milk from 80 to 90, 100 cow range. We have a little over 200 head altogether. This is my daughter, Holly.
Hi, I'm Holly Noyes, and I am here at the Noyes family farm as well.
Yeah. We're in the middle of a transition from my ownership of the farm, and her fiance and her are going to come into the LLC as well.
I am full-time on the farm. I do whatever really needs to be done. So a lot of my work is focused on, of course, the bookkeeping and payroll and helping employees with whatever needs they have. And then I also work on grant writing and looking for, new ways to, new programs and new ways that we could integrate that into our farming.
The only crop insurance that I've used is for corn silage. I kind of stumbled onto it unintentionally. I had participated in a program through the FSA for some wind, and I think they call it the WHIP program, wind, hurricane, indemnity. And the lady at the FSA office had told me that I had a field that qualified for it. So I got, I don't know, it was probably, I forget, $1,200–$1,500. It wasn't a big payment, but it was, I figured, well, what the heck. When I had collected this small payment on the WHIP program, I found out that I had to carry insurance for the next 2 years at a higher level. So at the time I thought, well, this isn't going to be very good. The cost of the policy was going to be more than the money I got from the program. But I said, well, everybody makes mistakes. But anyways, long story short, I've found out that it's a pretty good program to have. And the big change that I found in it was when they had it so you could buy coverage on individual fields or farms rather than just a blanket coverage. Because with the blanket coverage, you would have to have like a 50% loss on your whole thing. Well, a lot of years your fields are good, then you'll have one bad field. And by purchasing I forgot the term for it, whatever the coverage was, it breaks your farm down into individual fields or farms and stuff. And that way, if you have one bad one, you can get a payment on that, even though if the others are all good. Every field, they have a base yield. And I think one year I got a payment for about $22,000 or $23,000 that was on like 120 acres of corn. And this last year with the drought, I got a very good payment because, everybody was down I was down about 40%. So it was that's one of the worst, I think it's the worst drought I'd seen. The only drawback I can say to that is, it pays $40 a ton range. And this year, it's going to cost you $75 a ton to buy corn, but well, that's a huge help. Like I said, I'll never understand it all, but it's, I think the first thing you got to do is get a good crop insurance agent if you're going to get crop insurance. And I dealt with 2 young ladies, and they've been very good. I haven't had any on my hay yields and so forth. I have 120 acres of corn silage. And I think we do about, 250 acres of hay ground, something right in that range. Then I have, 40, 50 acres of pasture for the dry cows. And my milking cows go down the pasture, but they don't rely on it. They just like to go down there and lay down where it's comfortable. So, but, they still get the corn silage and the hay and everything every day. But I feed mostly corn silage and hay. I do wrap some hay, have some baleage, but I don't feed a lot of that. The last few years I've been fortunate. I haven't had to put a lot of the hay into baleage, so it's worked out well that way. But it's definitely, I've got a wrap and everything. There's definitely another tool you can use if you need to. The dairy margin coverage. Well, that's a program that it changes every time the new farm bill comes out. So in what year passed, but the last farm bill came out when 2019, and they had a 5-year plan you could buy and get a 25% discount on your premium. Well, I was down to the office, and the program had just come out, and so Maria had said that I could sign up if I wanted. So anyways, I signed up for the 5-year plan. That sounded good to have 25% discount. Well, the next month I went back, and the sign-ups had closed, and I said, did you get a lot of sign-ups? And well, she said there was the 3 counties, there was 4 of us that signed it. And I said, well, there's a soccer ball every day. I said, I guess this is my turn. But anyways, it didn't look like there was going to be payments and stuff that year because, well, then this thing come along called the pandemic. And I'd start getting messages, well, the dairy margin is getting close and getting to a payment. And long story short, I got a good payment out of the thing for 2 or 3 years in a row. And it wasn't anything I planned, it just kind of worked out that way. So I think a lot more people are using that now. It's like, I just kind of like call it insurance on your milk, your milk price. I'm going to sign up again. They just started, and it's definitely headed down. So I'm definitely signing up this time. I think it's going to be a 6-year plan this time instead of 5, if you want to get a 25% discount on your premium. So I'm going to take the 6-year deal, and it wouldn't be for me because I wouldn't even be milking cows this year if it hadn't been for Holly and Ben wanting to step in and take over.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old little boy, and I've been able to raise him right on the farm, and that's been really special. And just, nothing, truthfully, coming back in this capacity at the farm was nothing I ever planned on or dreamed of, really. I grew up on the farm, graduated from high school, went to Bates College, and then found myself working in investment management in Boston for 6 years. And then I knew that lifestyle and pace of work was not something I really found that enjoyable. So I actually came back to Maine and worked in renewable energy the last 10 years. So that allowed me to live here in rural Maine and back home. And then I recently just transitioned here to the farm as well. So it's, definitely, like I said, something I always enjoyed and was part of it, but nothing I ever really planned on. And he might be able to share his perspective as much.
I had 4 kids, and out of those 4, I would have said growing up should have been the last one on the farm to ever come work on the farm.
To corporate America really made me have this deep appreciation for where I grew up and the community and lifestyle. And I think just seeing that and being in that firsthand for the time that I was made me really understand and appreciate leaving home and ultimately why it's great to come back and be here. And I'm all in.
Chuck and Holly's advice on risk management for new farmers. First, sign up with FSA and NRCS.
Oh, I would definitely get in with FSA and NRCS. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. And I know a lot of people don't understand. I didn't understand it when I was, on the farm. Every year you had to do your acreage reporting and that type of thing. My father would say, I'm going to go down, report the corn acres. You got the books, we'd write it down. So I'd get them, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I just knew you had to report the acreage and stuff. So then after he had passed, I had to kind of start doing it myself. And like I said, I didn't have a clue what it was all about. And then I was asked to be on the committee for the county, the Kennebec County. And so, and I've been on, I'm going to term out after this year. It'll be 9 years. I've had three-year terms. But I've learned I wouldn't know where to begin. It's like I've just kind of, I've opened my eyes, and I've seen what's good and maybe what's not so good, but it's all been a real learning experience.
Second, networking on ag committees and ag associations.
So getting the experience on the committees with other farmers has been really helpful for you.
Yeah, and I've got neighbors and other farms that call me to want to know what's going on with this and what's going on with that, and I'm more than happy to share what I know. But like I always tell people, information's usually worth what you pay for it, and my advice is free, so take it for what you want.
Third, manage your debt load.
I just know that from my point of view, you have to manage your debt load and stuff. You can't, at least I don't know how to do it, to go deep into debt and ever operate efficiently, or, I don't know. It's just my philosophy, but it may not be right. But you might not have the most cows or the most equipment, but you can work. It's like any business. You can run it the way you want to run it. That's the thing about farming. But I told Ben when we was talking, I said, I'm not going to put you in debt. I said, these farms, you can still make a buck if you work hard and just keep your debt load down. That's how I do it. I said, maybe there's a better way to do it. I said, but as far as I know, that's the only way you can really run a farm efficiently.
University of Maine Cooperative Extension is an equal opportunity institution and provider committed to non-discrimination. For more information, visit extension.umaine.edu/non-discrimination.